As many of you know, I'm Yvonne, Chaplain Yvonne, and I am celebrating my first full year, I think a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And so it is good to be here and to spend some time with you, Colman. Thank you for accepting this invitation. I have to tell you, my colleague, Dina Cooperstock, and I met about 3 weeks ago, and we were just talking about plans for the holidays that are coming up. And so I said, what can we do for Black History Month? And I thought I had an idea of doing a film series. And I wanted to chronicle the history between Marian Anderson and the Civil Rights Movement. And so she said, that's a great idea. Let's take it to the calendar committee. Took it to the Recreation Planning Committee. They said yes. And then I began to think of the movies, and I told the volunteer about the 4 movies I wanted to show. And within 24 hours, Dina emails me, and she says, Yvonne, Colman Domingo is planning to visit on the first day of our movie series. Do you think it'd be okay if he is the official kickoff? And I thought that was a curious question. Why would she need my permission? So Colman, I promise you I'm going to restrain myself. And I'm not going to be giddy, and I'm not going to be starstruck, but we're going to get
I would like for you to be giddy and as starstruck as possible. Okay. Look, I'm going to disrupt this entire talk already, because I think it's a day. First of all, thank you for having me again.
Thank you.
And congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And it's so nice to be here. Last time I was here, it was Ugly Sweater Day. And you remember I brought my friend Jamie, who does my grooming, and we had a good time doing the bingo game. And I hope whoever won big.
I've been to one of those bingo games, and
they were a blast. It was fun.
They are. They truly are.
And intense as well.
And intense. That's right. That's a good description. So, Colman, I did a little homework, and I read that you're from West Philadelphia.
All right, there we go, Philadelphia. Go Birds. Exactly.
And from West Philadelphia, you became a stage actor, a TV actor, a big screen actor, and from being described as a character actor residing in a leading man's body, quoting one of your early agents. And then you fulfilling that presage. How is life? And what would you say today to the young kid that you self-described as being a shy kid who for a long time was not interested in acting?
Well, first of all, this is a wonderful way to start. I grew up in a very, just inner city West Philadelphia with a pretty much a nuclear family with, my stepfather entered my life when I was 9 years old and married my mom, and I have 2 older siblings and a younger brother. And I grew up in pretty much like the shy one in the family. I was very bookish, and we were a very, very modest family, so much so that I wore my older brother and my older sister's hand-me-down clothes. I was the third one, so I got, the well-worn sneakers and things like that. That also will give you a clue to other things I'll tell you, I think, the shaping of my trajectory. Because now people are like, oh, you're such a style icon. You dress all the time. And I think it's because I wore someone else's clothes for most of my early years. And then I had to eventually evoke a sense of style and find my way. But also in my family, my brother and sister always say that they're funny, they're gregarious, they're sporty. And I just wasn't any of those things. But I watched a lot. And I used my imagination. And I was always in the library. Because in my neighborhood, kids were, tough and, real sporty, and I wasn't any of those things. So literally, after school, I went to the public library. And I stayed in there, and I read books, and I made film strips, and I listened to the librarian, read Encyclopedia Brown mysteries. And I was just a bona fide nerd. but it was out of safety. Yeah, I thought as well. And then I would go home and spend time with my family. And I think those were the seeds that were planted that sort of, I don't know, helped me with my perspective of watching people and personalities and human beings. And then by the time I went to college, I took an acting class only as an elective. I was a journalism student. I really thought I wanted to go to war-torn places and document the world. I wanted to be a photojournalism major. So I was doing that, and my mother said, you know what, because she always thought that I was funny and more interesting than I allowed myself to be when I was outside. She said, take something that sort of gets you outside of yourself. She said, don't just take matriculating classes, take something for fun. And so I took an acting class because I thought, why not? Because maybe I can try to be someone else. And my teacher pulled me aside one day, and he was very curious. He says, hey, have you ever thought about acting as a profession? Now, I did not. I was the first person in my family to go to college, and it was about going to college and getting a job and becoming a good citizen, and that's it. I didn't know I could be on TV or I didn't go to theater growing up or anything like that, so I didn't even know what that was, acting as a profession. And I said, no, I never thought about that. And he said, well, I'd be very curious if you did, because I think you have a gift. And that's the part of me where I love being a teacher, because I know the profound effect that a teacher has on a young mind when someone tells you suddenly for the first time they're gifted in something. And they'd be curious if you interrogated it more. And I have, and then it set me on a path. My career started in the theater, in San Francisco, and really it was robust, doing at least 7 shows a year, and then I became a writer and a director and a producer, all of that in the San Francisco Bay Area. And then eventually, the seeds were planted, and then it's more television and film. But, right now, I've been in this business for 34 years, so I'm 55 years old. And so it's been a 34-year journey, and I feel like I just love the evolution of it, and I'm really glad that teacher saw something in me.
And so you would tell that shy kid
I would tell that shy kid that that's going to be his superpower.
It's going to be his superpower.
It will be. I would tell him, being shy, being aware, looking deeply at other people, because I just watched. I was not sociable or anything like that. I didn't know that's something I do now, which is also why I love looking people in the eyes. It's what, I'm trying to figure people out and tell their story. And I didn't know that was actually something that was part of the building block. So I would tell them to just hang in there, kid.
Hang in there. And keep reading, obviously.
Keep reading
and writing.
And to know that being a nerd is the best thing in the world.
That's right. And
it will take you to places like unimaginable. Yeah.
Yeah, it has taken you to many places. As you mentioned, you've done stage and on and off Broadway. You wrote a play that you starred in.
I've written a few, and there's one of mine that I just read. Some theater companies doing one play that I wrote about our families. It's called Dot, and it's about the central character and it was based on. I just got to tell you this because I feel like it was just on my mind this morning. I wrote a play about many people's experiences with dementia, and I wanted to put a central character, a woman who was fighting it, but who knew what was going on. But she's sort of based on, I have a lot of friends who, we're all affected by that. And I was like, well, let me see how a family actually deals with it. And it's a dark comedy because what I witnessed it, and we all know when you witness dementia, the people and the caregivers, they're sort of living in this dark comedy. And so I wanted to make sure that this central character was spirited and feisty and fun and activist. And then it was about the memory and the family and how they're going to do it together. It becomes a gift that no one wants, but it helps the family move forward in a new way. And we sort of put those memories in someone else so that, the family and legacy could exist.
Maybe you should have thought about sociology and.
Maybe I should have, but it's funny because a colleague of mine told me this. a few years ago. She said, so what did you want to be when you started out? I said, I wanted to be a journalist. I said, now, and also, selectively in a photojournalist. She said, huh, interesting. And she said, what else have you done? I said, well, I used to take headshots for people. I'm a writer. I do all these things. I write plays about families. And she says, oh, you're an actor, director. She said, you're kind of an archivist. That's actually what you are. It's something you specifically were drawn to something. And now I'm doing the work. I think I have a journalistic heart. I think everything that I do, like you're saying, even the work that, I'm sure, whether it's being a part of films like Selma or Sing Sing or Rustin, I feel like it's always that spirit in me that's trying to figure out who we are and what brings us together, what makes us more alike than unalike. So luckily I found that path as an actor, but it is, maybe it's a bit of a sociologist, maybe it's a bit of an archivist.
Yes. So now, again, you've done stage and you transitioned to TV, and in that transition, I read that there was a struggle that you at one point,
Amen.
having been nominated for a Tony, for
Olivier's
and the brothers.
Oh yeah. What?
But your Tony show, the Scottsboro.
Oh, Scottsboro
Thank
Boys,
you,
yes,
the
yeah,
Scottsboro.
yeah.
That's where you got the Tony nomination. And breaking into TV, it was a struggle because, and I'll let you describe that struggle. My question to you is, after the struggle, you persisted for whatever reason, and what propelled you to say, I'm not going to let this experience stop my dream or inhibit my dream?
Well, that's a great question, and I actually do wonder, what keeps a person going. I know that I was raised with a certain amount of, I'm not religious, but I think I'm spiritual, and I think I've always been sort of a happy kid, and I always believed that there was something for me, that there was whatever I was seeking was also seeking me. I think that was always impressed upon me when I was a kid. And I think that that's sort of like my engine, believing that there's love available, that there's joy available, family, that whatever you desire, if you're a good person and it's energetic. So for me, it is kind of spiritual in that way. It's like it's energy as well. I believe that, and so that's been my guiding light. Now, I've had ups and downs, highs and super lows in my career. And I would say when I was in my this new chapter has been since I was about 42 years old, where things start to take on a different light in my career. But I was always the ups and downs, doing theater, doing a great show off Broadway, running across town, so I wouldn't miss my bartending shift. That was my life. Or I would teach, I would do whatever I could, but it was also, I thought that was the life of an artist. And it was ebbs and flows. Usually, by the time I got a good show or a little gig on a TV show, that money, all that was supporting what I've been lacking. And so I was playing catch up for many years. So then, of course, you try to be sensible when you're about 42, 43 years old, and you're like, you know what, this whole roller coaster is like, it's really hard, especially when you're trying to look towards your future and all the things you would like to have, just some security. So I felt like I was achieving some successes. Like I did the show, The Scottsboro Boys, on Broadway and on the West End. And I came back to New York, and it just felt like, I was just constantly that high and then the low. I was coming back and I was auditioning for roles that I just thought wasn't challenging me or moving the needle in any way. I was broke. I was living in a rent-stabilized apartment in Manhattan, and it was time to make a shift. And the thing is, and I'll tell you this, because I love what I do so much, I love what I do. I didn't want to become bitter. So I was willing to step away when I felt like I wasn't getting opportunities, when I felt like I didn't have access or agency in this industry. I thought, well, maybe it's time to put it away. Maybe that was what I was supposed to achieve. I did a lot of wonderful things, and I thought, well, maybe that's it. because when I come back, the universe is not giving me what I think I put out. So I'm just trying to do the math. So it was a real hard time. It was like a time when I came back from London from doing this, and times are really hard. And any audition I had, I was not getting, I was not booking. I don't think people were looking at my tapes. It was truly a struggle. And I remember this one audition broke me. And it was the one where it was something crazy, like I auditioned for 10 different things in that week. And I was exhausted. And even more so, I started auditioning on Saturdays and Sundays. And I thought, well, so am I not supposed to have a life at all? So I'll never forget this. I was auditioning for that show. I auditioned for that show, Boardwalk Empire. And they were looking for an MC of Chalky's Club. And they were looking for a song and dance man. I'm like, I literally am a song and dance man. And they were like, oh, the cast and director were like, everything about this role is so made for you. Great, it would be a recurring role. I was like, I need a little win. Sometimes you just need a little win. So I literally had to sing for this audition. I tapped for the audition. I gave dialogue. I did everything. I had a callback. I did that. Everybody was like, this is great. During that week, I had 9 other auditions too. So I'm literally at the gym trying to do some wellness, and my agent calls. And I thought, oh God, this is it. I just need something. I need a yes. And she calls and she's Colman. Hey, so I heard back from Boardwalk Empire. I was like, oh, great. And she says, they loved you, casting loved you, the producers loved you. You did a great job. I was like, okay. And she says, but one of the researchers raised their hand and said that the MCs at that time during Boardwalk Empire were very fair-skinned. And I literally lost my mind in that moment. I said, they knew what I'd look like before I got there. I feel like everyone's fucking with me. And I literally burst into tears, leaned up against the wall. The whole gym's looking at me. And I was heaving, crying, and I said, I can't take this. I can't take it. I think this is going to kill me. It's breaking my heart. I can't do it. My agent was upset. She said, where are you? I'll come to you wherever you are. I said, no. I just have to stop. I have to stop. Because, we all have those moments in our lives where you feel like you're putting out, and planting seeds, and sometimes it's just not coming back. And I wanted to be real with that, and it hurt. And not say, no, it's okay, there'll be something for you. No. Sometimes you got to deal with the hurt, that it actually just hurts. And so I wept my way home, and I went in the door, and I talked to my husband. I said, could you sit down with me? Would you be okay if I did something else? I said, because I have to stop this because it's hurting me too much. He said, I'll do whatever you want. We can leave New York. We can do something else, something different. Great. And then, as I was sort of tying up, this part of my career, one of my dear friends, Daniel, he said, hey, Colman, my managers have been wanting to meet with you for years. I'm like, oh, no, I'm good. I don't need to meet with anybody. I said, I've done this before. I'm good. He was like, no, you should just meet. I said, no, I already let my manager go. I'm letting my agents go, and I'm doing something else. Like, happily, And he said, okay, well, really just a little meeting. I said, okay, how about this? I'll go in for one meeting, but that's it. And I went into the meeting, and I like to think of myself as a pretty, amicable, jovial person. I wasn't any of those things in that meeting. I sat there like this with my arms folded, and I told them, I said, well, this is what I do. I do this, that, and the other. I do this, that, and the other. These are my skills. I've done this. I don't know. What do you think? I said, I think, they said, we would love to work with you. I said, if you want to work with me, that's fine, but we could do it maybe for like 4 or 6 months, and then we'll see what happens. They said, we think we can help you, and you need more access, and you have to shift a few things, but we would love to work with you. And literally, within a month, everything changed. Because I had, listen, I've never said this, but I guess I'll say it. Sometimes, and I think you will all understand this, I was so dedicated to this small agency that I was with that was not helping me grow or build. but I was dedicated because we were building together, and I'm a man of my word. I was like, well, I want us to build together. But this agency had no access, no nothing. It's like, so I was drowning. And anything that I did get was because of my theater career. I only worked with Steven Spielberg because he came and saw me on stage. I worked with Lee Daniels because he saw me on stage. I worked with Spike Lee because he saw me on stage. And people were always wondering how you possibly working with these legendary directors and you barely have an agent. It's because of my work ethic on stage. So they told me I had to leave this relationship that I was in for 16 years with this agency, and I wanted to, I do things, up close and personal. So I went down and sat with her, and we cried for 3 hours together. It was like a divorce. And I said, if you tell me that I can be a contender in this industry, and I don't know how much longer I have, but they believe that I can do something. If you tell me that I can be a contender, so I put it on her. I said, if you tell me my career can change if I stay with you, I'll stay with you. And she literally turned away and started crying because she knew that she was holding me back. And literally we separated. I went with this new team. And literally within 2 weeks, I booked a series. I booked 2 series, actually. One was Baz Luhrmann's The Get Down, and the other one was Fear the Walking Dead, which I did 8 seasons of. So it changed, it changed my entire career. But I knew that you have to let something go sometimes to get something new. But no matter what, I always want to make sure I do it with grace and kindness, and I couldn't be responsible for how she was going to respond to it, but I knew it had to happen. But I wanted her to know that I loved her. And sometimes it's just hard. Yes. But I don't regret it now. Thank God. I had to move on. And it gave me a new footing in this industry. Right. To tell the stories I want to tell. And now that was 12 years ago.
So Colman, thank you so much for being so vulnerable and sharing with us your trajectory, and your trajectory speaks to the importance of diversity and equity in the entertainment industry, and the typecasting that has gone on in past, to celebrating the diversity and equity of all people, races, genders, orientations, everything that makes a movie a better movie. Yes. I read an article about a gentleman, a professor at UCLA, who does an annual report.
Oh, yeah.
I've
heard about this. Yeah.
He does an annual report on Hollywood and diversity. And he, in the 2024 report, it was, quite statistical and theoretical, but I was able to glean that he celebrated that the industry is recognizing the importance of diversity and that diversity is marketable. Mm-hmm. Thank you again for letting us hear how your experience, your talent, pushed you, propelled you, grounded you, propelled you, and has obviously given opportunity for other people to come behind you. You're welcome. Thank you. So when I first moved to Southern California, I came to work with Reverend James M. Lawson. He is now deceased, and he was the architect for the nonviolent philosophy here in the civil rights movement. Yep. And you starred in several movies. Lee Daniels, the butler, you actually played a bartender.
White House butler, exactly.
And then, but that role was a person of dignity and character. Yep. And then you've since played some of the heroes of the civil rights movement.
Bayard Rustin.
Yes.
Ralph Abernathy.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit of how you embodied such powerful people of change and
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. The blessing in my career is that I have been able to sort of stand on the shoulders of people who have done so much for all of us. One of them was Ralph Abernathy in the movie Selma. And I remember more than anything, one of the best things that Ava DuVernay, our director, did for us is that we had audience with a lot of civil rights leaders that were still living. So we had audience with John Lewis, and with Andrew Young, and with a few others.
Did you meet Jim Lawson by chance? Or?
I did not meet Jim Lawson, though. But the beautiful thing is we set up my castmates and I, we decided, okay, if we get 1 hour with these legends of the civil rights movement, what are we going to ask? And I literally said, we can't ask anything that you can find out in Wikipedia or documentary. And we all agreed we have to ask about all those nuances that make them just human. You know, like, what did Ralph Abernathy like to eat? We found out he was always on a diet. And he was all, which is why certain things, I would start to add certain things about, like, oh, can I have a plate of food? Because there was always this argument, like, Martin Luther King was like, you better stop eating all that. Juanita's going to get mad at you, his wife. So you start to get all these little wonderful nuances. So what helped us do Selma, I would pray with David Oyelowo before every scene or every speech he had to do. He was a beautiful Martin Luther King in Selma. And so we would go off to the side and I would pray with them because that's what Ralph used to do with Martin. And then also they had this, apparently they were always really funny together and always telling jokes. And also dirty jokes, apparently. Mm-hmm. They were real human beings.
That's right.
So I was always, I'm a pretty funny guy, but I would always just make David laugh his head off. And so what we were doing off screen also helped it on screen, which is great. So it's about getting all these little nuances of these people so you can portray and sort of give a bit more of their soul. And that's what I took into, by the time I did Rustin and played Bayard Rustin, I was very concerned about more than anything, his soul, more than anything. I think there's many aspects of Bayard that I had to learn because he did speak in this mid-Atlantic standard accent. He had a couple teeth that were knocked out. He was very, a little flamboyant. His pitch of his voice was he was a bit more up here, the way he spoke. He was way up here. It was quite interesting. But then I had to find that and find how he moves through space, because here's someone who existed at a time as an openly gay man organizing the March on Washington. He, there could be a threat to his body at any time. So I would have to work with how his body moves in different spaces. When he's at a meeting with the NAACP to when he's out in the streets or where he's out at night at a bar. So I had to investigate all of that. But more than anything, I think I do a lot of research with these characters because I think they deserve every ounce of attention. And then I want to find what makes them live and sing as a human being, and also not be perfect in any way. Because I think that, I want to take them out of the history books, out of the marble, and make them very human. And I think that's how, and then we can see ourselves in them. Because I think anyone who's been a civil rights leader, they don't think of themselves as doing anything heroic. They're just doing what's in front of them and they're making a difference.
Yes, there were several scenes that I was so moved. The conversation that you had with the Quaker pastor was powerful. And the Quaker movement is a service movement. And that foundation that Bayard obviously got, that after the massive, the success that he had to own, that he did with that massive march, and then to see you picking up paper.
That scene at the end of Rustin is one of my favorite scenes, because I thought it was it's a beautiful grace note, and I feel like, and I'll just say this, that it was really one of the roles of a lifetime. And there's so much that I understood about Bayard, about those who stand in doing the work and making a decision when the lights are shining on someone else, and you have to make a decision. Does it make you angry? Does it piss you off? Or do you just get concerned with getting back to work? And that's what he did. He's like, okay, I won't be invited to the White House this time, but to have a meaningful life. And there's a line in Rustin, which is one of my favorite lines, I think, in any film, which is a line that one of the other characters says. Her father asked her every day, have you made yourself useful today? And so I feel like that was also something about Bayard and about any of these. You know, I can show you a text that I have with Rochelle Horowitz, who ran transportation for the March on Washington. She's become a dear friend of mine, and she's 86 years old. And she texts me all the time. She's my Jewish mama. She texts me on the way here. She said, "Oh, make sure you have a good time." I said, "I will." But she's always concerned about service, and it's in her DNA. And it's about being useful, and being useful with the voice you've been given, the life you've been given, and to try to make everything a little bit better for someone else. So I think I'm happy that I have people around me like that. So not only am I able to do work like that, I pick up new friends and comrades, and I take them with me, and they help me shape the work that I'm doing, to be honest.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. There's so much that we could discuss and continue to chat about, but I know we're looking forward to watching the movie and watching Colman embody Reverend Abernathy. I want to talk with you about any conversations that you had with Reverend Andy Young, especially after 90. I don't know if you all watched the memorial service for President Carter, 90 some odd years old, and he sat in that chair. And he proclaimed a history of who we are and who we can become, as a nation and a world. So I want to thank you for this time, but I do have one question.
Sure.
I have watched you and enjoyed watching you, and I look at your grace and your elegance, and I know you're a fashion icon, and you've been nominated for an Academy for Sing Sing, and I know that means you're going to walk the red carpet. And you're also, I did a little homework, as I said, and I know you're going to be a co-host for the Met Gala, and we would like to just be a fly in your brain and find out what you're going to.
You know what I think, and I think I see people in this room will agree. I think it's important to have a sense of style. And I feel like it's not just the clothes, it's the way you walk into a room. I think I come from a legacy of people. It's like, you know what? You only have a few minutes to sort of set people on a course to let them know who you are, how you think, the kind of grace you have, the kind of spirit you have. And I use clothing to do that, which is great.
And you do it well.
Because like I told you, as you remember when I first talked to you, that I wore hand-me-down clothes for my brother and sister. So at some point, I wanted to develop my own sense of style, because you also feel like it is your calling card. It's I want to make people smile, make them feel like something, make them feel like, I think we need a little bit more pomp and circumstance in this world. We need a bit more fun and color. And because I feel like the world is a tricky place. We know it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's not. And there's darkness everywhere you look, but we can be the light, and we can even be it with just, coming and noticing that beautiful jewelry and just saying, oh, God, you made me sparkle and made me think of something hopeful and bright. So I'm going to wear something hopeful and fun and hopefully meet the moment. The beautiful thing about the Met Gala is that it's honoring the black male dandy, which is wild. It's never been done before, but honoring black men's tailoring. And, so it's going to have moments of and this is a beautiful idea, right?
So Bob invited me, gave me the opportunity to go to the event last week to honor the people of crafts.
Okay. Yeah.
And the costume director for Wicked won. You all have to honor
Oh, absolutely.
Do you know him?
And Paul Tazwell?
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
And he was there, and I said, oh, this is wonderful.
Well, you know, that's the thing. I'm so glad. You know, I'm glad you were there to honor the crafts, because without the crafts, I'd be wearing nothing.
Yes. So please make sure that he is recognized.
I will.
He's such a talent. I mean, I don't pay attention to cloth and material because that's just not my forte. And to hear, as you being a fashion icon, to hear discussions about materials and the combinations of materials was so fascinating. And I truly, as I said, I really look at you and am in awe and saying, boy, that is one good-looking man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What a beautiful woman. Thank you guys for having me. I think we're going to chat a little bit over by lunch.
Thank you.
You did good.
I don't know about that.
You did great.
You helped.
Oh, you did great.
Did she do great?